I'm going to report an astral projection from February 22, 1980. This is a very interesting report. What happened? I was lying down. I'll start there. I was lying down, and suddenly I felt. When I lay down, I didn't want to astral project. I didn't want to do anything. I lay down, and suddenly felt that vibration, that thing in my body, and I left. When I left, I stayed over my physical vehicle. I stood still and tried to turn, but when I tried to turn, I ended up moving above my house. When I looked down, I was already looking at the roof of the house. I couldn't see myself anymore. That's for everything I did, in astral projection. That's what happened. I left, followed that route I've been talking for a long time, but I'll repeat it, because otherwise, no one will remember. I went 300 meters high. At that time, I went up 300 meters, because the buildings were low. Where I used to live, I went up 300 meters, and started doing something I've always done in my life. I moved to the middle of the jungle, because I wanted to research new things. At that moment, I hadn't thought about doing anything, but when I left, I felt like doing it, what I always did. I would go to the jungle, or to Sao Paulo, or to Egypt, or anywhere I could discover new things. And I went there to the middle of the Amazon jungle. I must have moved 40 kilometers or so. I think it was this because I thought the same when that happened. Wow, I think I have moved about 40 kilometers. So, I went this distance, staying in the middle of the jungle. There weren't many houses there at the time. There wasn't much there. I was looking for something I could study or research. Actually, I went down little by little, and entered the middle of the jungle. When I entered there, I saw that there was some soil. It was as if there was a kind of soil that was made up of trees. The leaves fell, and formed something like this. How do you say it? It's like soil, there's no other word for it. I went down there and said, wow, what an interesting thing. If I pass this, I'll be in this earth anyway. I went through that soil I saw, and further down. When I got further down, it was very dark, and there was another layer of soil. I thought, wow, that's impressive, because there are two soils here. It wasn't a very long area. It wasn't very long, but it was dark, because it had that coverage. Then, I decided to go further down, to see what I could find. I went down, past the second soil. I'll try to explain how they were like. These soils were made of leaves, lots of leaves. The leaves were falling from the trees, and falling on the top of other trees. The leaves stayed there, other leaves fell on top of the others, and they started forming soil, as I said. That is the word. I passed through the second one. Then, there was the ground. The ground was very damp, really dark. But for me it was a success. There, I saw a lot of things, spiders, snakes, and all sorts of things. It was interesting, because I saw, for example, a snake, and it was standing still. It was lying there. I approached it, knowing that it couldn't see me. But when I got closer, the snake moved its head towards where I was. I stood still and watched it. Then, it returned to its normal state. I was wondering if the snake was noticing, feeling anything, or seeing a shadow. Something I didn't know. At the time I didn't know. I continued walking under these soils, moving until I reached a stream. I arrived at a river, a small river. When I got to it, I said, "This is fantastic." Because I'm somewhere people don't want to come. Nobody wants to come. Who goes to the middle of the jungle? Only native peoples. They do that and that's it. No problem. So, I kept wandering around. I saw that small stream. It must have been 1.5 meters, maybe 2 meters wide, and full of bushes on all sides. The water was very clean. It must have been about 1 meter deep, maybe less than 1 meter. I stared at that. I was very happy. I said, "This is absolutely fantastic." The colors I saw were not the common ones. The colors were different. And they were wonderful things for me. It turns out that, in an attempt to adjust the colors, I tried to see that place with the colors that it really should have. But I didn't see the green as green, I didn't see water as the color of water, I didn't see any of it. I saw everything differently. I kept walking around. First I walked along the river. I floated over that river. And went on. After going perhaps about 200 meters over the water, I stopped and thought it was better to go back. I was there for about half an hour. Half an hour in the astral dimension, when you are there for just a while, time gets very long, because you do a lot of things, you see various things. Your perception is different. I kept moving on the river, near the river, and then I went up, next to a huge tree. I kept going up, more or less 300 meters, what I said at the beginning of this report, and returned. I started to return slowly, because I wanted to fly. I actually wanted to be with my arms open, and really fly. So, that was how I got back to my house. I did it that way. That was the first projection I had. Then, I had 2 more projections on the same day. I went back to my house, at the height I always talk about, 300 meters, towards the roof of the house, and said, "I will enter now, because I have to go back to my body." And I went back to my body, I got out of bed, made some notes, and that's it.
Fiz algumas anotações e pronto, e foi isso.
Would you like to participate in a work of energy giving from afar that is benefiting thousands of people? Click on the link below for more information.